From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They called me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Alexis, codenamed Doc Holliday Jackson. Most importantly, you are here, and that makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. It is the top of the week. And as we hurtle headlong into summer, we wanted to do one of our favorite things on the show, which is to bring you, our fellow conspiracy realist, some strange news. We're going to get to the bleeding edge of AI, a story that I think we all strongly feel should be discussed much more in depth. And speaking of depth, we're going to examine a strange case of some operatives who met an untimely end in literal depths. And then, we'll have a palate cleanser along the way. Don't worry. We're not going to keep it all spooky. But I think before we get into that, maybe just a quick update, just really briefly. Guys, remember we talked about our pal Elon Musk, famous
Elon?
Yeah, famous emerald mine guy. Yeah. He's a busy boy. He's got a lot of stuff going on. And the FDA recently gave one of his companies the official green light to implant things in the human brain. The Neuralink is coming.
Wow. Yeah, wasn't this the technology that had previously been experimented on with simians or with primates to pretty inhumane effect, if I'm not mistaken? I believe there were some investigations that showed that they were not doing right by our primate cohorts.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So the extent of the trial is not known yet. Neuralink, their public statements are pretty short. They're clearly dictated by their legal department, and all we know is they're not taking participants for this clinical trial just yet. We will examine this maybe in a future episode, but what you need to know, the positive thing, which is very real, is that the implant is primarily meant to help people with severe paralysis regain movement and quality of life through controlling external technologies using the power of thought. So it could be really good. Maybe we just leave it there.
It's a nice ride. Isn't it funny how early on, in the Elon Musk coverage, he was sort of cast as this real life Tony Stark, the Iron Man, tech billionaire from comics fame. And now he's a bit more of a Ra's al Ghul type figure. He's become kind of a bit more of a super villain. Maybe this will help swing the pendulum back a little more in the other direction. Or it could be they're abducting unhoused people from the streets and experimenting on their brains.
Or it's ad supported.
Did you guys hear about the fMRI study with blood flow and not chatbot technology, but very similar technology, these AI deep learning servers to watch the blood flow in somebody's brain while they're in an fMRI machine to predict what their thoughts are. So the experiment would be showing them a silent movie while they're in that machine. And then this thing is trying to predict what their thoughts are while they're inside the machine and watching something on television or watching a silent movie.
It's already happening. It's so nuts. I don't know if you could listen to TED Talk Daily, great podcast based on TED Talks, which can be a little bit Pollyanna. The future is not always going to be great, but they recently had a wonderful episode about privacy of thought and how that's becoming increasingly endangered by things like the technology we're talking about. Again, we have a whole show to get to. We just wanted to let everybody know we're aware of that one, the same way that we're aware of Cop City here in Atlanta. Those episodes are on the way. But this really, right now, for our purposes, the Neuralink stuff and what you pointed out, Matt, about using AI to monitor brain activity, I think that takes us really smoothly into our first story, because AI everybody's worried about writing and visual arts, as we should be, right? But there's much more to the story. And Noel, you found something that is just, can I say it? It's just hellish. This could be hellish.
It's hellish and unsurprising, because I think we're at the stage now where this tech is getting so exponentially good. It's improving. It's such an insane rate that we're really just now starting to see the stories kind of trickle out as to what the kind of early game uses are going to be for this technology. And like, while obviously things like writing and art are important, there are people whose jobs revolve around those things. There are much more dystopian depths that this technology can stoop to, let's just say. Let's talk about debt collection, okay? Debt collection is a little bit of background. If anyone's ever been unlucky enough to get a call where it says this call is being recorded, this is an attempt to collect a debt, yada, 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 you usually get a little pre-recorded voice like that, and then it bumps you to a person, or the person is reading from a script. And that's a whole industry in and of itself. Things like support centers for, call centers for tech support and all of that stuff, and call centers in general that do all kinds of things like collecting debts or reaching out about utilities and things like that. But then if you get reported for failure to pay, you are getting a debt collected from you. You are an attempt to collect that debt, and that can reflect on your credit. And folks will go to some lengths to talk you out of your money. And I mean, of course, if you are in debt, you do owe that money. You did sign up for that. But we also know there are lots of predatory lending practices that are pretty gross, that target folks that are less well off. Now we're seeing a lot of things like these pay later kind of services that PayPal offers. And it's like another little thing where even with a relatively meager credit score, you can get this kind of like, you get the thing now and you pay in installments. The problem with some of those services is that they actually don't build credit for you. I found that out a little bit later in a different time of my life, where, like, for example, PayPal has a credit part of its service. But for whatever reason, that's not the same as having a loan or having a credit card. It does not actually build credit for you. So it's really not benefiting you in the long term in terms of your financial wellness, and just have the ability to, for example, get a mortgage later down the line or whatever it might be. So now there is a new development in debt collection that involves, of course, ChatGPT or GPT-4. There are services now that are popping up out of the one in particular, that this Vice article by Corin Fife, F-A-I-F-E, Fife, I don't know, Fife sounds good, is talking about a company based in New York and Bangalore called Skit.ai, which is described as being a digital voice agent. So it's essentially what the article describes as the next generation of the robocall. As we know, combining things like ChatGPT with voice, let's say, synthesis technology, you could theoretically and in actuality speak to a robot that can then take cues from you that aren't just playing back another clip. It's actually engaging with you. So using that text-to-speech ability and this AI chatbot technology, you could have a dynamic, responsive, this is from the article, conversation with this technology. And of course, the goal here is to get rid of humans, get rid of human jobs. These people no longer are required because they can have, they can scale this technology in an alarming way. You can have a technology doing the job of hundreds, if not thousands of employees, because it's all about server space. It's all about processing capacity. That stuff is relatively easy to upgrade and to keep in these server farms, and you don't have to pay it once you buy it. It's sort of a one and done thing. You just have to maintain it. So the idea is to employ this technology in reaching out to individuals, explaining to them that they are in big trouble and they need to pay up, or they're going to, there are going to be repercussions. Rather than sticking to a script an individual, would be looking at, these things can be a lot more nimble and kind of, obviously they've got their guardrails, that would probably be dictated by legal language and as far as what the company is able to communicate to an individual and what they are not. But the point is, using AI for debt collection certainly increases the capacity for these companies to go after individuals. As we know, during the pandemic, there was quite a boom in online shopping that was sort of boosted by that stuff I was just talking about earlier. These buy now, pay later models, things like Sezzle, which just sounds like a made up thing in a sci-fi movie, or like a Silicon Valley name for a company. Quad Pay, something called Klarna that I'm also not aware of, that also sounds made up, and companies that we're more aware of like PayPal are using. So essentially what this amounts to is a increasing amount of debt that individuals are have racked up, oftentimes with exorbitant interest rates that are associated with them. And of course, due to certain after effects of the pandemic, many people have lost their jobs. So now there's more money to be made than ever in collecting these debts in the form of really applying the pressure, kind of mafia style. Like, I'd be ashamed if something happened to this cup here, push it off the table. So this is, again, not surprising. It's just another use of this technology that maybe wouldn't have been instantly apparent, but it is absolutely happening. So in the article, they quote a statement from the company skit.ai that describes the technology as follows. They credit it with, quote, alleviating the negative feelings customers might experience with a human during an uncomfortable process. Because as the writer points out, it's obviously, of course, a lot more comfortable to negotiate with a robot. What do you guys think about that? Is that true?
It's obviously more comfortable.
This is from a Vice article, right? So
yes.
So there's always an implied base level of sarcasm, maybe, but it's maybe a case-by-case basis, too. This makes me think, it's weird that we haven't done an episode on corruption in the debt collection industry in general. Like this feels like it is good for the bottom line of these companies, right? As you articulated so well there, Noel, but it also feels like they're attempting and maybe they're sincere about it, but they're attempting to ascribe benefits to this kind of automation that are not the real benefit, which is 100% saving money, reducing the cost associated with having a human staff. And also, I guess we should point out here in the US, it may work differently in your neck of the global woods, but you have certain non-negotiable rights in a debt collection situation, and they're not going to be the ones to tell you about those. So don't let yourself be intimidated into something that's possibly illegal. I don't like, this is okay. How is this not weaponizing that immensely fucking irritating robo menu you have to go through whenever you call a company now, right? And you have to use voice commands, right? They're increasingly phasing out touch tone because they want your vocal data, whatever. Sorry.
Well, that's its own thing. And that's true. And it has also become increasingly difficult, and they make it so difficult by wrapping you up in this web of menus that you have to listen through all of the options before you get to the one. By the time you get to it, you might have even not remembered where you are in the list. Then you end up inevitably back on the home menu. Then you have to listen to the whole thing again. They're relying on it to be so frustrating that you just kind of give up. And I guess this whole notion of the friendly robot, I think, is something that we have seen in science fiction from the past. The idea of this friendly robot that is a helper robot that's there to serve you and make your experience nice, but also this is an inherently combative situation, right? That we're describing here. There is nothing particularly friendly about someone coming at you saying, you owe us money, and if you don't pay us, we're going to wreck you, in no uncertain terms. And again, to your point, Ben, these guardrails certainly won't allow the machine to give you any real answers that are helpful. That's up to you to determine, and it does beg the question, can a human in this situation either? Because these humans that are talking to you, they're being recorded too. They also have guardrails. So is it really that different, is my question. And I think the main beef that I think all three of us have here is that these are jobs that people depend on. These are sort of entry-level jobs that many people who maybe have situations where they need to be able to work remotely would benefit from. And this is going to wipe those jobs off the map. And that's what, aside from any ethical questions about just machine learning and AI in general, just the technology itself and its interaction with humans, it's about eliminating jobs. And as we know, with the labyrinthine menus that you're faced with and the inability of these folks, to actually give you much useful information, this is the perfect job to replace with AI. Because these humans that are on there are kind of hindered anyway. They're sort of neutered in such a way where they can't really speak to you as a human. They're basically human robots anyway.
Yeah, it is interesting how that functions. It is weird that this is one of those maybe low-level entry positions, right? When you're looking for a job, you just need to go out there and get a job. This is one of those positions.
It's often commission-based.
Yes, and it's often just an open job that you could go and fill if you needed to, right? I need money, I need a job. This is one of the things you could do. There's
also a job that's often outsourced to other countries, as we know,
And very complex, because I think, just to add to what you're saying there, Matt, I think a lot of people don't understand that many debt collection outfits, they are hired guns. They're already the contractors. They bought the debt from someone else at a discount, which is why things are often negotiable, because there's a margin, there's a window, and they can go down to a certain threshold and still make money, still make good on whatever their deal was. It's very, I understand it. And, we don't want to knock people who are making a living because they have to, but obviously this can be a nasty, nasty business. And I think AI would be able to, I don't know, man, I don't know if we're going in the same way with this, but I think AI will be even more efficient at squeezing the blood from the stone here.
Well, I thought it was funny that you mentioned the bleeding edge of AI. That phrase immediately popped into my head. It's the squeezing blood from the stone edge of AI. And to your point, Ben, I'll just read a little blurb from the article here, from the Vice article. Some of the companies that stand to benefit most from AI integration are those that purely exist to collect debt. These companies, known as debt buyers, purchase, quote, distressed debt from other creditors at steep discounts, usually pennies on the dollar, then try as hard as they can to get debtors to repay in full. They don't issue loans or provide any kind of service that clients might owe them for. It's a business model built on profiting from people who fell behind on payments to someone else. They also rely heavily on the civil court system, which some experts believe will soon be flooded by AI-generated debt lawsuits.
Oh, I just now got it. Because a debt collection agency cannot, at least in the U.S., a debt collection agency cannot have someone arrested for failure to pay off that debt.
Yeah, I don't think debtor's prison exists anymore, right?
Currently. Yeah, right. Currently. But the way people can get arrested is if they're not complying with a court order. Right. And so taking it through the courts, automating litigation. I think a guy just got in trouble for using ChatGPT to write a case brief, but I don't know, Matt. I feel
that's
like
the next step, though, right?
Yeah,
Ben, is automating low-level paralegal jobs and like writing these kinds of. That's the next step. Once it gets approval and they realize, okay, this is accurate enough, it's going to inevitably be used for that.
I feel like I just got so cantankerous that, Matt, you were making a great point, and I stepped in and I was like, yeah, and also screw these guys, and then just went kind of Dennis Miller. My bad.
No, you're fine. Correct me if I'm wrong in my thinking here, guys, but it feels like it's eliminating a lot of the jobs that either A, you get early on as a kid, right? I'm thinking fast food jobs that are have already been replaced for the most part, but like all the other parts of fast food, I think are going to go. Things like a telemarketer or somebody who is doing debt collection. You go into a call center, you work every day. These are not only the jobs that young people would get as a starting out position, they're also the jobs that maybe somebody who's spent some time in prison and is getting out and needs a new job to get started again, right?
Or elderly folks that don't have a retirement plan, just to keep them afloat.
It feels like we're cutting out a lot of that stuff. I'm worried that we're going to, and when you're talking about paralegals, you're talking about cutting out that first job out of college, right? If you are going into law, You may be going in as an apprentice or something, becoming a paralegal even, like just trying to get in at that lower level. It feels like if we eliminate all that, then you're either not a lawyer or you're a full-fledged lawyer now, or you're not a blacksmith, you've never touched metal, or oh nope, you're the blacksmith.
Apprenticeship stuff has been phased out for a long time. It feels like it just doesn't exist anymore.
It's what we're looking at is a real-time depiction of something or a real-time harbinger of something we predicted a while ago, which is, yes, a utopian post-work economy may exist someday.
But they're not doing the work to get to that.
Between now and then, what will inevitably happen along that path is not the post-work economy, but the post-worker economy. You'll still need to have a job to exist. You just won't be able to have a job.
If they wanted to do it right, they would be, doing some kind of, let's just say it, socialist kind of programs like a universal basic income or something. They would be, developing these things in parallel. But instead, as the United States is kind of notorious for doing, we're just taking the shiny new object and shoving it right out into the marketplace without preparing for what havoc it will inevitably wreak. I don't know, man. It just doesn't feel right. Because to your point, Matt, like those jobs are going to be eliminated. And there are folks that don't have access to good education and that live in underserved areas and are part of underserved demographics that are no longer going to have a leg to stand on. And without something like a universal basic income or a more robust welfare system, this stuff is going to really do some damage. A lot of nods. I think we're all on the same page. Let's take a pause after this depressing conclusion to this story, and we'll be back with another piece of strange news.
And we have returned. We explored something nigh inevitable, like we said, the bleeding edge. We wanted to give you a bit of a palate cleanser, a fun conspiracy. Who doesn't love a heist? We hope that you love a heist as much as the four of us, fellow conspiracy realists. This is a lighthearted one, and we hope it gives you a chuckle, even though I think I'm like legally required to say you shouldn't pull heist. Here's what happened. This is an earlier story. It didn't get to the U.S. for a little while. In Canada, police stumbled upon a ridiculous crime. Shout out to our peer podcast, Ridiculous Crime. Somebody stole thousands and thousands of dollars worth of toothpaste. They stole, they stole at least $2,100 US worth of toothpaste. And the North Vancouver Royal Canadian Mounted Police diplomatically described this as a failed attempt at a clean getaway. This was at a superstore, and officers just happened to be in the area, like in the parking lot, and they saw this guy running out. Picture whatever action movie heist film score you want. Think of Heat if you want.
Yeah, Mission Impossible, perhaps.
Yeah, he's got or this person has duffel bags and then like a child's red plastic wagon.
I love the image on go to the DH News article.
That's dailyhive.com. That's one of the articles that has a picture of this. And we'll get to Twitter in a second. But like I say, a child's red wagon full of what looks to be, was that Sensodyne toothpaste? Yeah, Sensodyne toothpaste. It's a classy paste. So we learned about this because it turns out that the North Vancouver RCMP, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, they have a Twitter, and they posted the following. Talk about being in the right place at the right time. On Friday, officers were near Superstore for an unrelated matter when they observed a man running out of the emergency exit, followed by the staff. Officers jumped into action. They arrested him and returned $2,100 worth of toothpaste. Thank you. No, we're keeping it in.
no,
we're keeping it in. Sorry. Okay. Well, Doc, could you put in, Codename Doc, could you put in something like the Law and Order? Perfect. Just not close enough to get us sued. So there were a lot of questions here. First off, we know that some consumer products are stolen more often than others. Sadly, hygienic products may get stolen more often, right? Like people may steal sanitary pads or diapers out of necessity. We know that during the pandemic, people were stealing sanitizer. They were stealing toilet paper because they could sell it pretty easily. But toothpaste, though? Like, why? Why would you steal so much toothpaste?
Is this a rhetorical question, or is
no?
Okay.
I'm not styling on it. I'm asking you guys. Like, in what world would it occur to you? What series of events would lead you to a moment in your life where you said the choice is clear?
Remember when we did an episode where we talked about a story where there was a lot of spam being stolen in Hawaii, to the point where they had to, put the spam behind like those glass cases with the key. So like the employee of the Quickie Mart has to grab the spam for you. I don't think this is the same thing. I don't think toothpaste exists at a higher premium or street value in Canada than in other parts of the world, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'll tell you exactly why you steal this much Sensodyne toothpaste. Come on, you guys. You know this.
Why?
You're on the inside. You're a sales rep for one of the other big toothpaste guys. You got to get that stuff off the shelf. For some reason, everyone wants Sensodyne right now. We got to curb this.
And now it's wrecking the public image too, right? Sensodyne, that's the number one toothpaste of criminals. Right. So 9 out of 10 failed robbers recommend Sensodyne, and they all get caught.
How crazy would that be, though, if somebody walks in your apartment or whatever, and you've got an entire closet of toothpaste, and anytime it's time to refill, you get to have that moment of like, check this out.
Well, that's my question, though. Is there some sort of toothpaste shortage in Canada that we're not aware of? Is the street price of is there a black market for toothpaste? It just seems like that's such an easy thing to get. No one would ever need to buy it on the black market. So I just don't understand what the end game is here.
So yes, I think this is a really good point. These are several good points you're making, because astute listeners, you may have noticed that I stumbled a little bit in the beginning of this story. I did some digging. I thought maybe this was just like a one-off, Florida man level kind of tale that would lead us to some interesting questions. But upon just a little bit of digging around, I found that this is not the first case of a toothpaste heist this year.
Really?
It appears that on March 7th, 2023, also in Canada, someone stole a truck containing $250,000 worth of toothpaste.
Why do we talk about that story? Whoa. That's obviously the superior heist. This is small earlier. Potatoes here. I'm just saying.
Right. It was earlier. They've got some. This was in Wellington County, and as of March, police were still looking for someone who could help them crack the case on this toothpaste heist. They said that the officers responded to a theft call at what they're calling a storage lot. So not clear on whether that's like a public storage area. That's what I think it is. We have a lot of those here in the U.S. And we all know what we mean when we say public storage area, right? What are the names of those places? You're moving and you put them in.
Unit? Storage unit is what I
Storage
hear.
unit. There you go. That's right.
Public storage, cube, smart. Okay, yeah.
And a lot of times when people die and they've been like leasing those for a long time, then everything in there get auctioned off. Mm-hmm. That was actually the subject of one of those Guillermo del Toro.
That's right. Yeah,
episodes. Yeah,
on Cabinet of Curiosity. Yes,
correct.
There's also a great story in Radio Rental this season about that. Check it out.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, made by our good pals over at Tenderfoot. It's a brainchild of our buddy Payne Lindsay. So do check it out. And maybe Payne could help us out on the case of the missing toothpaste.
All aboard the Payne brain train.
Yes. Police say that a white Volvo semi-truck was stolen from the lot, and it had a 53-foot trailer that was just filled to the brim with toothpaste.
I would argue coincidence. I would argue it was a theft of opportunity. They didn't know what was in it.
Yeah, they just said, okay, it's a trailer, and it sounds like there's something in there. So hopefully it's PS5.
But for them to have like forethought, like prior knowledge of the contents, that they lined it up, so they got like, you know what I mean? Like, remember that one where there was the big jewel heist from like, it was a some sort of trailer like that was, you know, the people went inside a rest area to get a snack and have a shower or something, and the people were waiting because they knew it was coming from this gem show. How do you know that the truck you can't see through is full of toothpaste?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would have to have an inside toothpaste person, or it would be, like you said, a crime of opportunity. The way to learn whether it's a crime of opportunity is to get a hold of the truck and see how it was started. You know, if it was hot wired, then maybe somebody just happened by, they busted a window and so on.
This still doesn't answer our question as to why toothpaste. It doesn't seem like a particularly valuable commodity or a scarce enough commodity. You know?
Why are there multiple instances of toothpaste heist? Because the most recent guy was definitely doing it on purpose. It had to look kind of weird in the store because he had a child's wagon dragging behind him, you know, in a place that does have shopping carts.
Look, I know this. I think Canadians like the show Trailer Park Boys. There's a great episode where they do a meat heist. They steal a bunch of meat. They get this, you know, that show's all about Ricky and Julian and their crew. And they're a bunch of kind of low life dum-dums that do dumb heists. Like there's a whole thing, I think it's in the movie, where they're just robbing like parking meters, because who's gonna get them for that? It's theft under $1,000. There's never gonna be more than $1,000 in a parking meter. So there's a whole episode where they're robbing supermarkets of meat. This is the kind of heist that Ricky and crew would do, but it usually has to be some crime of opportunity with those guys, where either it's gonna not be a felony because it's under $1,000. This is over $1,000. This is 2,000 plus. This would definitely be a felony, because they're always talking about theft under $1,000. Like that's not going to get them sent to prison if they do theft under $1,000. But this screams Trailer Park Boys. Canadian conspiracy realists out there, let us know. Is there something we're missing about toothpaste in Canada?
Why'd you do it? Yeah, let us know. I mean, I always try to say this. We take pains to respect anonymity when possible. We just feel like there's a very interesting story here. And speaking of interest, in the interest of full disclosure, folks, we are in regular contact with former bank robbers. So like we have talked with, I am. Yeah. We have talked to folks who have been involved in strange situations. So if you are the person who is responsible for some of these toothpaste heists and you have a reason, we want to hear it. If you are not the person and you have a theory about this that we're missing out on, we would love to hear from you. You can call us at 1-833-STDWYTK. You can email us. We read every email we get, conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com. And, you know, if you'd rather speak with the police than speak with us, the local police want us to tell you that you can call Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. That's 1-800-222-TIPS to help shed some light on the toothpaste heist. Why did they do it? What is the deal? Maple syrup, I get. It was a lot of maple syrup to move. Parmesan, I get. That's a very high profit margin.
Remember the pasta heist in Detroit? Or no, I'm sorry, in New Jersey?
Yeah,
we
pasta heist.
Talked about that, but that was one that happened recently.
Yeah, there was this huge pasta heist. The pasta was found, thrown out in the woods.
Oh,
like a dead body.
Spoiled pasta.
Spoiled pasta. As a matter of fact, you know what? Also, we're going to keep this one short. Before we go to an ad break, tell us about the weirdest heist you have ever heard of. Like the weirder, the better. The kind of heist where you have to wonder why this person cared enough to steal this thing. Can't wait for your thoughts. In the meantime, we're going to take a break for a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back with one more piece of much more serious strange news.
And we've returned, guys, and we're going to get so serious right now. Are you ready?
So serious. Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to start.
Wait, I'm not ready.
Oh,
hold on. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. I'm going to start this way, guys. Just kind of beginning a story. I'm going to get to a place, and then let's talk, okay? Here we go.
Sure.
On Sunday, May 28th, a 52.5-foot tourist boat was carrying over 20 people on Lake Maggiore, Maggiore, near Lisanza in the Lombardy region of Italy. Okay, so lake in Italy. According to official sources, the boat capsized and sank due to a powerful, quote, whirlwind. This is a very severe and sudden storm, similar to what we may have heard referred to as a water bomb that affected a bunch of the region. Just think a whole bunch of water, strong winds, all of a sudden. That's the storm that capsized and sank this boat. Most of the passengers on the craft were able to escape and swim to safety, either to shore or to another vessel that came to their aid. Unfortunately, 4 individuals who were riding on this boat or who were in this boat lost their lives. And that's why we're talking about this story today. Here are the people. Anya Boshkova, who is the spouse of the owner of the boat, who just so happens to be Russian. Claudio Alonzi, who's 62 years old, and Tiziana Barnobi, who's 53 years old. These are 2 people who were employed by the Italian intelligence agencies, right? They worked for Italian intelligence. And the 4th person, so far, at least as I have seen, an unnamed 50-year-old retired member of Mossad, or the Israeli security forces. Okay, guys, that's why we're talking about this. Ultimately, it's a story about a terrible storm and a ship that sank and some people died. But this is a strange group of characters, right? Don't you think?
It would seem so. Oh my gosh. Have you guys seen the film Triangle of Sadness?
Yes.
No. It's excellent. And it's don't want to get too off course, but it's a collection of very wealthy people on a yacht and things happen. But it's a ragtag crew of mega wealthy individuals that get into hijinks on a yacht.
Well, it reminds me a bit of White Lotus season 2. That's like what I was thinking about immediately.
Yeah, and this film Triangle of Sadness is basically White Lotus season 2 on a yacht.
Okay.
2 things immediately. First, the boring bureaucratic stuff, the stuff that we do have to say, is that there is, from my understanding, there's no proof that they were on some active shenanigans, right? As there's nothing publicly out about that. They may have been, but there's nothing out saying that.
How would we get proof, and who would give that? You know what I mean?
two other fantastic questions, Matt. And then the second thing, which is a little bit more interesting maybe, is for anyone who wants to play along at home. I know that we always do this. If you pull up this lake on your world spy of choice, Google Earth is a great one for this, then you'll see that this lake is not only the second largest in Italy, but it is a navigable water border with Switzerland, which I also find interesting because that's
where you go to hide your money, right?
Well, yeah, and also when countries have a water border like that, like a lake or a river, things tend to the likelihood for a shenanigan is always going to be a little bit higher because it's a little bit easier to slip some cards up your sleeve, figuratively speaking. But also, I'm going to say it. I think there are certain intelligence agencies where you never really retire, and I suspect that. I mean, obviously, the company here in the States, no one ever really retires from that. And no one ever really retires from Mossad. They may have a different job. They may not be going into that career every single day.
But the ideology remains, right?
Well, the training too.
Yeah, and that, of course, yeah.
And the fact that if you are in those things for the rest of your life, whether or not anybody but you knows it, you have to check with someone before you do certain stuff. That's why every time a former intelligence agent writes a tell-all book, if they're still living in the same country, then they got the green light to write it. That's the only way it happens.
And then just a couple things get edited, changed, just to make sure.
Couple things,
to protect the innocent.
Oh,
dun, dun. Sorry.
Oh my God, Matt, you gotta stop.
But that's the thing, though. I'm saying that because we know, at least from my understanding of some of the articles you shared, Matt.
Yes.
We know that Israel has already naturally been a little bit close to the chest about this Mossad agent, right?
Yeah, let's jump to AP News. They posted an article today. This is the title. Israel's Mossad says former agent was among 4 people who died when boat sank in Italy. And if you jump down just a little bit, it says this. Quote, the Israeli Prime Minister's office issued a statement on behalf of the Mossad saying the unnamed agent's remains had been returned to Israel for burial. The Foreign Ministry had previously confirmed that a retiree from the Israeli security forces was killed, but didn't provide a name or age or give details on his professional background. Even, it goes this far, you guys. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said that because of the agent's work in the agency, further details could not be disclosed and extended condolences to his family. And it continues on here, guys. This is the last bit before I get out of this article. Italian police released no information on the identities or professions of the 19 survivors, the people who made it off the boat. But local news reports said they included other members of the Italian and Israeli intelligence services, suggesting the outing may have been part of a, quote, work meeting.
Which they, I mean, definitely still happen. That's why those institutions exist.
Like a team building thing, like a fun day like, out on the lake.
There was a birthday party. There was a birthday party on the boat that's been confirmed, but we don't know if it was had anything to do with any of the intelligence service members.
I mean, also, even if it's not officially that kind of thing, whenever people in the same industry or genre of profession hang out, they inevitably, to whatever extent they are allowed, they will talk shop, you know? So like this is, okay, we got to say this though. The excellent Haaretz article you linked to shows us that a judge was able to lay down the law and squeeze a little bit more info out of the Israeli government. So this article by Yossi Melman describes how a judge in Italy allowed the body of this unfortunately deceased retired Mossad agent to be returned to Israel. And it was only after they got to their habeas corpus state, after they had the body, that Mossad allowed the official disclosure of this person's name, Erez Shimoni. And Erez Shimoni, the name had already been reported in the Italian media. And we see this all the time in multiple countries. Yeah.
I haven't actually seen that name. How do you spell the first name?
Erez, last name Shimoni, Shimoni.
Got it.
But here's the trick. Everybody knows it's not his real name.
Oh, wow.
Like it's SOP for Mossad. It's standard operating procedure. So
that's the other thing I noticed, Ben. According to that AP News article, all of because they're in Italy, right? All of the Israeli citizens were flown by private plane back to Israel, to Tel Aviv. Like, what kind of service is that? Nice.
It's not the usual government worker budget for sure. That's, you know, I don't know too much about how the sausage is made in the Middle East there, but I can say that in the U.S., government agents don't usually get flown on private planes as a day-to-day thing.
I mean, I know it was an emergency. It was a terrible tragedy. It's an awful situation. It reads to me like they needed to get them back, not to safety, but maybe out of the public eye as quickly as they could.
There's an interesting line in the article talking about how folks that did survive, the intelligence personnel who did survive, were quick to go to their hotels and collect their belongings. And equipment is the word that was thrown out there too. I just wanted to add, there's no weirdness around the narrative of that this was in fact caused by inclement weather. Like that part we're all accepting, or not.
Well, that's at least according to what I read out of, is it RAI? I think that's how you say it, RAI. It's a translated Italian article that like that is exactly what happened, at least according to the official sources. Even I think what do they call him? The person who runs the entire region there in Italy, I guess the president of that region. The official statement is, yes, it was a storm that capsized the ship that caused it to sink. But
we weren't on the lake.
No, we weren't.
I hate to point that out right now, but yeah, it also, it's so sticky because, okay, the most important thing to say here is that these are human beings. Their deaths are a tragedy, right? And they've doubtlessly left behind loved ones and relatives. And it is a horrible, horrible thing for someone's life to end in such a abrupt, untimely manner. Also, with that in mind, and as respectfully as we can, I think we're doing a pretty solid job pointing out some serious questions about this stuff. It is not a secret that the nation of Italy has long been a crossroads of, of some spooky stuff. And I am engaging in wordplay there. I mean, think about propaganda do. Think about all the stuff that Italian intelligence outfits have done. I'm not trying to sound anti-papist, but think about the stuff the Catholic Church got up to and gets up to.
There's a vibe.
There's a vibe. Okay.
Know,
yeah, there we go. So I hope that doesn't sound too judgmental. I like the way you put it.
Not at all.
I'm just saying there's a vibe.
It is pretty darn weird. And, the fact that the spouse of the guy that owned the boat, Claudio Carminati, this 53-year-old dude from Varese, I guess is how you say that, Varese. The fact that his wife is one of the people that died is a little weird. Officially, again, according to the story there out of Rye, she went inside the boat, right? Like down, what do you call that? Going
below decks.
She went below deck because the storm became so intense so quickly, and she was nervous about it. And then as it capsized and sank, it's not good to be inside.
I guess my question is the speculation or the conspiracy theories, or I guess theories, plural, probably, that there was some sort of clandestine meeting taking place, or that the sinking itself was the intent.
I think it runs the gamut, right?
Yeah.
When something like this happens and all we know is the official story about some tragedy, but some intelligence service members died from wherever, it just makes me, I'm just going to speak personally, it makes me wonder, how did it happen? Why did it happen? What were they doing? Like all of those things.
Yeah, I'm also thinking to the point about the collegiate nature of people who have been in the same business for a long time. I'm also thinking that if it really is only a social function, a birthday for someone who's been in the game for a while, then they probably have previous work adventures with each other. You know what I mean? Right. They probably have war stories to share. And a little bit more about the plane here. It seems that the plane that was taking them out, the executive jet that brought them back to Israel, is a known thing. It is a known aircraft that the government of that country uses for, quote, official but secret missions. It's been spotted flying to and from Khartoum, the capital of Sudan, as well as Qatar. Like these people are clearly connected, and no matter what happened at the lake, the folks back home at the top, the folks who have like the red phones, they said, we don't need our pals going through regular customs. That's exactly what happened. We don't need someone to go, hey,
snooping
is
around.
Your name really Johnny Blue Jeans?
Yes.
And you're from Kansas?
Definitely.
Name a city in Kansas.
Corn.
Kansas City. All right.
Wind.
Yeah. You lucked into that one.
Windy.
Get out of here. Kansas. Yeah. But no, I mean, like that's clear. Those are some of the most pertinent things. But
I can't think of a city in Kansas, y'all. Am I a bad person?
Kansas City, bro.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
I just said it. Okay.
Carry on. But yeah, guys, I don't have much else from this story. I guess it's just one of those. It was of interest. Yeah, right. It was of interest. Hopefully it was of your interest as well.
No, it seems like the kind of seed that's going to lead to some further revelations down the line. But it's good that we're keyed in on it now. So thanks for that, man.
Heck yeah. I really like that seed that will lead line. Ben, we got to use that later.
We're rhyming a lot this episode.
And we want you to be part of that growth if you can, folks. Please, to the extent that you are comfortable and or allowed, give us your opinion on this tragedy at that lake in Italy. Please let us know what you think about us doing a debt collecting episode. Please let us know what you think about the idea of automation for jobs like this specifically, or jobs in general. And would you let a tech entrepreneur put an implant in your brain if you knew there might be consequences down the line? Perhaps most importantly, and I know you're listening, why'd you take the toothpaste, man? Let us know. We're all over the internet.
Oh, boy, are we ever. You can find us at Conspiracy Stuff on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Conspiracy Stuff Show on Instagram and TikTok.
If you want to use your voice to call us, you can leave a voicemail. Our number is 1-833-STDWYTK. When you call in, give yourself a cool nickname. You've got 3 minutes. Say whatever you'd like. Just do include whether we can use your message and name on the air. If you've got more to say than can fit in that 3 minutes, why not instead send us a good old-fashioned email? We are
conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.